Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening's virtual event. We are so thrilled that you are joining us tonight for this celebration of this brand new book. We've been reading it here at Bookshop and absolutely loving it, and we know that you guys will as well. Tonight's event is co-sponsored by the Santa Cruz County Chamber of Commerce, and we thank them so much for all their support and their help getting the word out tonight. We had such a great community here in Santa Cruz. And here at Bookshop Santa Cruz, we know that it is a really intense time in the world right now. As an independent bookstore, our community is vital to us, locally, nationally, and even globally. And we are so thrilled that you are here spending your resources and your evening with us in the midst of a global pandemic, rapid climate deterioration, the essential work of dismantling the lie of white supremacy, and ongoing economic and political turmoil. We see these talks as a way to deepen and refresh in order to return to the vital work that is before us. And we are just so grateful that you are spending your time with us tonight. So this evening's virtual event is just going to be jam-packed with goodness. I am just so looking forward to it. We are going to be welcoming Arianna Huffington, Marina Khidekel, and Aya Kanai to the stage, as well as a special guest a little bit later in the evening. And we're going to have about a 30-minute discussion with Arianna, Marina, and Aya. And then we will have a workshop for the second half of the evening. So for the workshop and the Q&A at the end of the night, you can submit your questions into the chat tab at the bottom of your screen. We'll be gathering questions there for Marina to answer at the end of the event. I also want to remind everyone that we will be drawing 3 lucky winners for $50 gift cards to Bookshop Santa Cruz. I'll be drawing those after the event from the attendees here tonight, and we will contact you by email if you are one of the lucky winners. Other than that, just to let you know a couple other upcoming events that you might be interested in attending. We have Daniel Lieberman for his book Exercised, Why Something We Never Evolved to Do is Healthy and Rewarding. That is on April 14th. It's a free event. And we also have Yusef Salam for Better, Not Bitter, Living on Purpose in the Pursuit of Racial Justice. And that is going to be on May 19th. And you can check out, of course, our full calendar online, and we hope to see you back at a future event. But now to move to the main attraction, I am so delighted to introduce our guests tonight. Arianna Huffington is the founder and CEO of Thrive Global, a leading behavior change tech company helping individuals, corporations, and communities improve their well-being and performance through its behavior change platform, storytelling, and corporate services. She is also the founder of the Huffington Post and the author of 15 books, including most recently Thrive and the Sleep Revolution, which I have behind me. And tonight we are delighted to be celebrating Marina Khidekel, who is here for Your Time to Thrive. Marina is the head of content development at Thrive Global, and she brings Thrive's corporate and consumer audiences compelling multimedia storytelling and actionable science-backed advice to help lower stress and improve well-being. She has been a top editor for national media outlets, including Women's Health, Glamour, and Cosmopolitan. And we're delighted to have an incredible moderator here with us tonight, all the way from Brooklyn. Aya Kanai is a media industry leader, and she's head of content and creator partnerships at Pinterest, which I know is probably some of our favorite websites. We love that site so much. Kanai leads the company's global vision for editorial integrations between creators, publishers, and the product. And she brings really fresh and inspiring content to the platform. A little bit more about Aya is that she was the editor-in-chief of Marie Claire and the Hearst magazine's chief fashion director, following nearly 20 years as an editor at publications including Cosmopolitan, Women's Health, and Teen Vogue. She also managed fashion styling for Hearst Made and supported special projects for Hearst magazine digital sites, including harpersbazaar.com, townandcountrymag.com, and Oprah. In 2015 and 2016, Kanai appeared as a judge on the Lifetime Realities television series Project Runway Jr. Couldn't help but get that one in. And I'm so thrilled that they are here with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Really great to be here, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I have to show you my copy of this book. So this is my process when I am studying something. I get out my mini Post-its and I put in tabs, and then I mark each tab with the key message that I am trying to remember. So as you can see, we have a lot to discuss tonight, and I know that all of you will so enjoy reading this book. There were several moments in reading it that I actually had to put it down just to sort of process what I had learned. So welcome, Arianna and Marina. Thank you so much, and great to see you this evening.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if you can see, but I want to show my favorite joy trigger, which is Aya's daughter. I don't know if you can see the attitude and the coat and the little hat, a little fashion model already.
Well, she takes her own micro steps. And one of the things we'll talk about this evening is creativity and how creativity expresses itself when you're a child and how that changes when you're an adult. But to start off, Arianna, please tell us. So this book captures a lot of the work that you have been doing with your team as the CEO and founder of Thrive Global. Can you tell us how this book brings together so many ideas that are critical for you?
So basically, just to kind of go to the beginning, as you know, coming from the world of media, after my collapse from burnout and exhaustion in 2007, I brought all these topics of how we can lead a healthier, more fulfilling life to the Huffington Post and started covering them exhaustively. But by 2016, I wanted to help people go from awareness to action, from knowing what's important, that sleep matters, that moving matters, that being grateful matters, to knowing how to achieve these things. And we brought together a group of amazing scientific advisors, philosophers, psychologists, to be able to crack this incredible challenge of behavior change. Because we all know our lives would be better if we had adopted healthier habits, but it's hard. And so by bringing all that together over the last 4 years, including them all in our platform, our app, we also wanted to create a book which would really sum it all up. And as you said, it's really like a workbook. You can dip in whatever you want, explore whatever theme you want to focus on. It could be sleep, it could be movement, it could be food, it could be family and connections. And gradually, and that's the key, gradually adopt healthier habits through these micro steps that we call too small to fail.
Absolutely. And so, Marina, can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly is a microstep?
Yes, I have to say, when we had a call a few days ago about this event, and she showed me her book, and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It's so amazing that you did such due diligence, and knowing you as a friend, I knew that you would, so I was not surprised. But yes, so as Arianna said, micro steps, you kind of hear the word, you think, I kind of get it, but what really is it? We do call them too small to fail, but what they are small science-backed steps you can start doing immediately that have a significant impact on our well-being and all of the realms that Arianna was talking about. You'll see throughout the book, and sleep, creativity, which we'll talk more about, focus and prioritization, unplugging and recharging. And actually, we started writing this book before the pandemic, but then the pandemic hit and it became even more critical that we start small. I mean, generous estimates say that 50% of us don't follow through with our New Year's resolutions because they're too big, they're too lofty. We don't start small enough, and there's so much science about starting small. And after the year we've had, which was so overwhelming, the idea of a big life overhaul just feels laughable. It feels ridiculous. No one's going to do it. So this idea of starting small, smaller than you think even, and having little tiny things each day that you can do and celebrate and say, if I did nothing else today, I did that micro step, and feel really good. And it strengthens your muscle to continue to do it and form better habits.
So speaking of muscles, one of the things that I absolutely loved reading this book is you kind of get a peek into what the Thrive Global office is like, how your office is set up, ways in which you are able to educate visitors through small things that they see on the walls. Can you tell us a little bit about how you all really walk the walk and talk the talk, because you have your own office culture, right? I mean, obviously now we're all at home, but can you tell us a little bit about how your office and your office culture is set up to support some of these tactics?
Yeah.
Well, it starts with our standing desks. You know, you can sit down if you want, but everybody gets a standing desk. Our microstep wall, which we love, that has like these magnets of different microsteps, and then a pile of magnets that guests can take, depending on what microstep they want to work on. And one of the favorites that disappears the fastest is um, turn off your phone before you go to sleep and charge it outside your bedroom. Critical for good night's sleep. But, you know, we say if that's too big a microstep, do it one night a week and then gradually add um, different nights. And one more microstep that people love from the wall is around breathing. You know, breath is our superpower. It takes 60 seconds to course correct from stress. So taking the 60-second breaks during the day that we call resets to focus on conscious breathing, conscious inhale and exhaling, just literally prevents stress from becoming cumulative.
Absolutely.
I will add too that we always say at Thrive, we drink our own champagne. So in the book, in each chapter, you will see that we put ourselves to the test, and a Thrive staffer has a microstep diary where they try one of our microsteps, and they're honest about what works about it, what doesn't. Sometimes, you know, it took a few tries, and that's also the point of this book, is that as Arianna says, it's a no judgment zone, this book and microsteps. There's no way to do them wrong. They're so small that if you fail, you can just start again.
Absolutely. And so since we are still on the topic of work and sort of how we all get things done in this modern culture where, you know, I think that we can all agree that our interaction with technology is not going to go away. We just have to learn how to manage it better and be the grown-ups in the room and not be, you know, dominated by our devices. So again, I know all of you are going to read this book, but I just want to read one page that truly made me have to put down the book and think about it for the day, which is they write, multitasking with multiple devices has been shown to actually shrink our brains. The gray matter in an area of our brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is responsible for information processing, withers away. Okay, I hope I am not the only person in this giant room of people who has been known to sometimes be on Slack and email on my phone at the same time. And so to think that I am actually deteriorating a part of my brain, sort of how did you do this research? How did you learn about all of this? And what can we do to combat it?
Well, you know, what is interesting is that while multitasking shrinks our brain, is incredibly stressful, and doesn't make us more productive, there is something else called habit stacking that we talk a lot about in the book, which is amazing. It all depends on whether what you are doing requires your brain or not. If multiple things you are doing require your brain, that's multitasking and it's exhausting. If one of them doesn't, it's a perfect way to add a healthy habit on top of it. Like we brush our teeth. It doesn't require any cognitive brain power. So while we're brushing our teeth, we recommend remembering 3 things we are grateful for, all while washing our hands or washing the dishes. You know, a lot of the things we do during the day are kind of on automatic pilot. So during that time, we can add,
Mhm.
you know, the the micro step that we want to bring into our lives.
So moving on to creativity, and there is a really interesting chapter on creativity here. And so as was mentioned in the beginning of this talk, I work at Pinterest, and being able to provide creativity and inspiration to people is like one of the core missions of the platform that I work at. But this section of the book really had me thinking, because there is a very poignant part of the book that discusses how we grow from children to adults. We can see creativity as a binary. Either we're creative or we're not. So actually, we've done some research on creativity where I work, and actually the word creativity is sometimes a turnoff to people, because people hear that word and they'll say like, oh, I'm not an artist, or, you know, like, I don't paint with oil, or whatever it is that they feel intimidated by is actually housed in the word creativity. Whereas what's clear from this book is that every person is creative. In fact, as I have a 3-year-old daughter, you all just saw her picture. She is creative every minute of the day, but she's not calling it anything because she doesn't care to give it a name. So how can we shift our mindset to expand our definition of creativity and not take it so seriously? Because yes, we might not be, you know, painting the works of Picasso, but we can be creative in our own lives.
Yeah, that is 100% correct. I mean, your little daughter, you said it best, is creative all the time. And as kids, we have this sense of wonder about us where everything is new and we're seeing it through new eyes. And then as adults, we start thinking of creativity, as you said, as binary. I either make things or I don't. I'm creative or I'm not. And it's very limiting, and it's really important that we expand our definition of what creativity is, because we bring creativity to all aspects of our lives as workers, as parents, as friends. We solve problems all the time, and that requires creativity. And creativity requires what we were talking about before, this idea of taking small breaks throughout the day, which any of us can do. It's an enormous microstep to schedule a 60-second break or 60-second reset throughout the day, because that's when, in those quiet moments, our brains make those connections that are sort of bubbling under the surface. They bubble up. And, you know, in our hyper-connected time, we think of productivity as king and breaks as throwaway. And that is absolutely flipped. Like, it's the wrong way to think about it. In fact, those quiet moments, whether the beginning of your day and the middle of your day, are so important. If you can get out in nature for just 1 minute, that's an amazing micro step. During the day, you know, if you can't, what I do to take a break is I do some stretches for 1 minute and watch a live animal cam from a zoo. A lot of zoos have these live animal cams, and I watch animals and I like reconnect with nature. And I know you, as a very creative person who does have to be creative for a living, you yourself have really amazing rituals to boost your creativity. Will you tell us some of those?
Yes, well, so in the beginning of the pandemic, naturally we were all sent home, and everyone's stress and anxiety level was so through the roof. And this is actually an interesting example of, before I understood about microsteps, I tried to like eat the whole pie, which is to say I assigned myself the task of 66 days of 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of a run or a walk, and 20 minutes of reading a book before 6 a.m.
Wow.
And I did it because, you know, we were in a crazy moment, and the only time I really felt safe walking outside was when there wouldn't be other people around. Whatever, it's Brooklyn. It was just, you know, last year was crazy, but I did it, and then by the end of those 66 days, I had accomplished, quote unquote, my task, my assignment, and I stopped doing it because I felt like I had run the marathon that I had assigned myself. But that's actually not the point of meditation, of exercise, of any of the reading. Like, all those things actually are meant to be lifelong, you know, joys that you engage in, not some kind of like grueling boot camp, but I was putting myself through. And so if I had taken that micro step attitude of like, maybe it's like 1 minute of meditation. And then the next week it's 2 minutes of meditation or something like that. I think it's possible I might be still doing it now.
I love that. And it sums up that collective delusion that in order to be successful, in order to be creative and amazing, we need to power through exhaustion. We need to really treat life like a boot camp. It's what you said. And when we actually realize that all the modern science tells us that recovery and recharging are part of peak performance. Look at elite athletes. Look at Tom Brady, winning the Super Bowl at 43. He talks a lot about his sleep, not bringing devices into his bedroom, how he eats. All that goes into our performance as well as our health.
Yes, absolutely. Which is a great way for me to ask. Marina, can you tell us about this idea of the unicorn space and why carving out this time is really important?
Yeah, absolutely. So Eve Rodsky in her book Fair Play, we do a lot of work with her. She came up with this concept of unicorn space, but really it's eudaimonic well-being. And that means doing something that brings you joy, uniquely you, or that enriches the creative part of you. So it's something that does not connect you with other people as someone's daughter or mother or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is. It's something that really speaks to your soul. So the microstep in the book that we all love to do is, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's once a week, do something. It can be playing the guitar, staring out at the stars, anything. It doesn't have to be quote unquote creative. You don't have to paint, but you can, and you don't have to be good at it, even if you do. Do something that brings you joy and reconnects you with the core of who you are. And it's super, super important you're not going to stumble upon this time. You've got to make the time.
So interesting. So it's like the unicorn is more about like going into your fantasy world for a small moment that is just like not your everyday reality.
Yeah, it's something that brings you joy that might not bring your family or your partner joy, just something for you that brings out that core of, think about when you were a child, like what brought you joy. Like for me, it could be trying to paint. I'm not a great painter, but I'll scribble or I'll doodle or I'll daydream. It's something that is just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically giving ourselves permission.
Yeah.
To do whatever it is that recharges us, even if it's not productive, and kind of own that space, which so often we don't, because there's been so much emphasis on optimizing every minute of our lives. And we forget the fact that way we miss out on connecting with something deeper in ourselves. From which enormous creativity, innovation, and joy can spring.
This actually comes from the chat box, but I love this question because I am truly curious, which is what microstep is the most critical for each of you?
Do you want me to start, Arianna? Do you want to? Okay. Well, I can start with mine. Mine is about the beginning of the day. And the microstep that I challenge myself to do that really did change my life is taking 1 minute between when I wake up and when I check my phone. It sounds so little, but I used to, like a lot of us do, just even before my feet hit the floor from the bed, I would be on my phone and I would get the spike of anxiety every day. I didn't like how it felt. So I challenged myself to just take a few breaths, drink a glass of water, do something simple, set an intention for the day. Because, and I learned this later, what you're doing when you're starting your day on your phone is you're starting off focused on what other people want from you if you read your emails or texts, what inspires other people if you scroll through social media, and the scary news headlines of the day rather than what you want out of your day. And that simple minute really changed how I went into my days, how I approached my work, how I approached people in my life, and really tempered that anxiety spike that I had.
So mine has to do with something called box breathing. So I love the fact that Navy SEALs use box breathing in times of extreme stress. So I feel if box breathing is good enough for Navy SEALs, it's good enough for me. And I use it, let's say, if you ever wake up in the middle of the night and you can't go right back to sleep, if you get some bad news and you need to recenter, and it's very simple. You breathe to the count of 4. You pause to the count of 4. Marina is doing it right now.
How could you tell?
And you exhale to the count of 4. And it's kind of amazing. If you do that for 60 seconds, a few times a day, it really helps you to end the day without being a bundle of nerves. And it's kind of one of our favorite things at Thrive, which is the recognition that while stress is unavoidable, cumulative stress is avoidable. And if we end up the day being a bundle of nerves, we are more likely to stress eat, stress drink, not being able to go to sleep, etc., etc.
Absolutely. And speaking about stress, there's a very powerful section in the book about what times of adversity, what are the gifts of times of adversity. Arianna, could you tell us a little bit about a gift that you have received from an adversity you've experienced in your life?
First of all, I love the way you put it, the gifts of times of adversity, or as Stanford economist put it, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. So for me, a gift of this time has been to be here in my home in LA. Normally, I live in New York with my daughters, my sister, an enormous amount of special bonding time. Not traveling. Oh my God, what a gift. And also having the opportunity to clean my garage and finding journals from my 20s and seeing how much I kind of beat myself up, you know, how self-judgmental I was, how doubting myself. And so kind of I wanted to scream to myself across the decades, you know, cut yourself some slack, give yourself a break. And so I want to kind of say that to everybody listening, because so many times we can be so hard on ourselves. And I really profoundly believe that forgiveness and lack of judgments has to start with self-forgiveness and not judging ourselves so much.
Absolutely. For all the parents in the audience, I'm curious about how you think about this idea of microsteps can be applied to parenting.
Well, I love the idea of doing microsteps together. Kind of, actually, you should do that with your adorable daughter and maybe write about it. But let's say brushing your teeth together and asking each other to remember 3 things you're grateful for.
Mm.
Or let's wash our hands together and what are we grateful for? And then kind of asking her to be your accountability buddy. Children love being your accountability buddy, saying, can you please remind mommy to take some deep breaths? Or can you please remind mommy to say my affirmation? Come up with an affirmation or something that brings you joy. Have her come up with an affirmation, just something simple that centers her when she's upset. And then remind each other and put her in charge.
I love it. I'm going to be implementing that right away. Changing the topic a little bit, you talk in the book about this idea of the eye of the hurricane. So how do we get ourselves into the eye of the hurricane, and why is it so important?
Arianna, you talk so beautifully about this. I'm going to let you. I love this.
Marina, you do talk about it as beautifully, but the bottom line about the eye of the hurricane is based on the fact that we all have it in us, that we all have that place of peace, wisdom, and strength in us. Most of the time, we don't give ourselves a chance to connect with it. And the eye of the hurricane is real. You should look at meteorological pictures that show, the hurricane, and in the middle, there is that incredible eye of complete calm. So it's kind of something that I always aspire to. And frankly, as Marina knows, because we work very closely together, I don't always achieve. But to be able to get to the eye of the hurricane when things around are like topsy-turvy. And it's like something that you can get to with practice. You practice these micro steps. Always remember it's a judgment-free zone. Nobody's doing this perfectly. We are all works in progress. And it's very important to remember that, because when we judge ourselves, it's harder to get back on the horse and continue this journey.
It's true. One of my favorite quotes in this book is, you write, it is often the small moments of wonder, awe, and connection that inspire us most. And I love that because it kind of encapsulates the microstep concept. Can you close us out by letting us know why is this especially true now that we tap into that wonder and awe and open ourselves up to these moments?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've all probably seen the stats that we're actually working longer hours during the pandemic from home. We're on constant Zoom calls. We're going from meeting to meeting, and virtual fatigue is real. By the way, thank you everyone for coming to the virtual event, because we know that. So it's this idea that we were talking about of this 1 minute reset that you can take to, gaze out the window or go outside or just let your mind think of nothing. It's more important than ever when we're go, go, go to let our brains be bored. And it doesn't have to be like your marathon walks, even though I love that you did that, Aya. It doesn't have to be walking back and forth across the Brooklyn Bridge. It could be going around the block, staring out the window and thinking of nothing. Or, looking at your child, playing with your puppy, looking at pictures of people close to you. There's so many little tiny resets that we can do that just take 60 seconds to course correct from stress and tap into that wonder that is so core to who we are as children and so important and boosting that sense of creativity and purpose now.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Arianna. Thank you, Marina. As you know, this book is very well loved in my household, and I know that it will be loved for everyone in the audience tonight. So, get out your tabs and your pens and get ready to really enjoy this incredible book. I will say there is a part that will speak to every single type of person, every single want and need. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us tonight.
Aya, you have been incredible. I knew you would be nothing less because you ask the tough questions and always have, and I love your interviewing style, and I'm so excited that you were able to join us tonight. Thank you so, so much, Aya.
Thank
you so much, and we look forward to reading about you and your daughter.
Little Ray, I love her.
Yes.
Tell her she is a big fan in me and in Marina.
Yes, well, I'll bring her to the bookshop Santa Cruz when I actually can get on an airplane.
Great, and bring her to the office so that when we open, so that she can pick up some microsteps from the wall.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Aya.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Arianna, too. That was wonderful. The next part of this is actually going to be a workshop, and we are thrilled to welcome Thrive's Chief Training Officer, Joey Hubbard. And he's incredible. He's been, Arianna, you can talk about how incredible Joey is and how long you've known him.
Well, I'm just thrilled that Joy is joining us. I've known Joy for 3,000 years, I say. And when I decided to found Thrive and leave the Huffington Post, he was the first person I called. And he's been with me across multiple continents on this journey, working with companies, their employees, individuals, brands. And you'll see he's magical. I don't know where you are, Joy. Have you arrived?
I'm on.
Hi. So
Hi.
I'm here with Joy and the amazing Marina.
Thank you, Arianna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So Joey, I'll let you take it away. Everyone who's joining us today, please put your questions as Joey speaks in the chat. And then the last few minutes, we'll get to as many questions as possible. But Joey's going to talk to us a little bit more about microsteps and the thought and limiting beliefs and all that good stuff about creativity and purpose and inspiration.
Thanks, Marina. So let me share my screen. I have some content. Oh, I'm disabled. Can we just allow me to share? And someone said, you love my bookcase. That's actually our bookshelf in the office in the lobby. So if you come to our office in Soho, I had a little bout with the designer at WeWork who decided that didn't look right and wanted to take that down. And so I came back from a trip and it was done differently. And I had a pizza party and redid it that way because I felt like it was artwork. So can the host allow me to share here quickly so I can?
Sorry, Joey, working on it right now. This is Carell from Bookshop Santa Cruz. Can we just
no worries.
Sorry about that.
I think if I'm just made a co-host or something like that, it might allow me to do it.
Perfect. I will do that.
So as we think about, how do we, as a group, become more creative? It's interesting. There's actually research that shows the impact of different parts of our brain on our ability to be creative, inspirational, purposeful. I was laughing when Marina was talking about not being very creative. I can remember being in first grade and I sat next to this girl, Adrian, and I had a crush on her. I remember that. I think it was my first crush in my life. And we were painting flowers and she was right next to me and she was painting a flower and I was painting a flower. But when I looked at her flower, I realized that I was not really painting a flower. And I had this thing in my head where I said, I'm done. I can't do that. And it impacted my creativity for a very long time because of that decision I made in my brain. And so we'll dig in a little bit on this. Arianna talked about why we created the company and this piece around all of us needing to have, especially right now where we have this lack of diversity of connection. We're at home, most of us. We're not able to be around people that inspire us or that just having a conversation, it sparks in our brain, dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and all those things that allow us to feel recharged. So what can we do to allow, as Arianna says, the magic to occur? First thing is to remember the mindset that we have affects what we actually do, what we believe. We know in the brain that there's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system that filters what we see, feel, and hear. And it does that based on what we believe. So if I believe that I'm not a good artist, that's going to show up, right? Just the way that I see the world. All of us have had the experience of loving a certain type of car or something that we really liked and then noticed that we saw it everywhere. That's our brain and how our brain operates. So check the beliefs you have about your creativity because it will affect your ability to actually be creative, whether it's physical creativity or just internal creativity. These kind of beliefs, like I'm not a creative person, creativity has no place in my definition of success, or I can't connect to my sense of purpose or have an impact right now. Those kinds of beliefs will actually shut down that part of our brain that allows us to be in that and experience that. So without going too deep, maybe just ask yourself, what is my inspiration? What is my purpose? How do I want to express that? And then start to give yourself a statement, a clear statement around your ability to manifest and produce that. I do workshops where people spend a month just trying to figure out what their purpose is. And often we see this as what we do externally, but I tell people it begins internally. When I start with the idea that I love to share and contribute to people's lives, that can be your purpose and that can be inspiring. Now, what you do about that, well, there's so many different ways to express it, right? Sharing, contributing to people's lives can manifest as teaching, as being a mentor. There's lots of ways that you can actually participate in it. It can be a parent, or just somebody who is willing to show up and be of service to people that don't have what you have. So lots of ways to actually express it when you get clear or connect to what it is that's true for you. I was looking at a study from University of Berkeley. Professor there was studying awe and wonder. And what he did was he had all the students go out to the, kind of the quad at Berkeley. If you've never been on the campus, it's a beautiful campus. And he had them stand there and he said, observe students. That was their job. And while they were doing that, he had a student walk by and drop her purse. And then he noticed what his students did. And he said, on average, he did this every day in his class for a month. And he noticed that 1.5 students would go help and support the woman who dropped her purse. And then he took them to a cypress grove. They're the oldest cypress grove in the United States is on that campus. And he said to them, observe the cypress trees. And they would just sit and look at those trees. And he had the same scenario. He would have someone walk by and drop her purse. He noticed 7 out of 10 of the students would go help the woman who dropped her purse. And he started saying, well, what was different? And what he started seeing is when we connect to awe and wonder in whatever way we do, it actually does so much in the brain. In fact, it's the only way to naturally inspire the brain to produce cytokines. Cytokines are like proteins that help build the immune system in our brain and in our body. And it actually helps our blood be stronger. But those you can't artificially make happen. But what they found is that awe and wonder was the only thing that actually triggered the system to build more of those. So it's amazing what happens when we get connected to that kind of experience. There was a time when we all believed, and this I'm talking, 16th century, 15th century, where people didn't believe that the only way you can experience awe and wonder was through a deity. Around the 17th century, people started challenging that. And in the 18th century, even say, yeah, art, nature can be considered awesome, right? Awe, wonder. And it was actually at the time, it was very heretical. But we now know that for many of us, if we get connected to those things, a lot happens in our brain. And so we're in our book, you'll see this whole section on this. And as they were talking about today, find some small microsteps that can trigger you to be connected to your creativity, your inspiration, your purpose, because those things can push past all of the challenges of today. And we have lots of them. But when you connect to those things, there's something that happens in inspiration that goes beyond what our physical limitations are. Connect to our purpose that goes beyond what our physical limitations are. And we connect to our creativity, we get connected to a source that Arianna calls magic. I call that ability for us to be in a space where time, space, those things aren't affecting us. So a couple of things that we'll just share with you. Martin has a whole thing about spending time alone. What's interesting about most of us is we aren't used to or like spending time by ourselves, meaning that we want to be engaged in something. It means where you don't have anything going on from a technology perspective. Now, how many of you can sit and not be engaged in technology? Not easy. But creativity actually often requires this time where we're not doing anything. We're letting our creativity be inspired. In fact, we talk a lot about this idea of boredom. Boredom is actually a state that allows creativity to come forward. but it means that we aren't engaging our brain in our normal activities. So really practice. I know it sounds like kind of crazy, but that alone time where you're not being distracted or entertained by anything. And then the natural wisdom, creativity, purpose, inspiration that we all have can start to come forward. Now, this could be a daily practice where you spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes doing nothing and just see what starts to happen in your brain. Some people will actively do things like meditate, do contemplation, walking out, quiet time, just thinking. All that can work. But the more you can just practice doing nothing, the more our brain can start to go into a state where creativity can come forward. So a couple of micro steps. Just let yourself be bored, whatever that may mean to you. But it does mean device free. So what does that look like when you are sitting, being with yourself with nothing to do? Very few of us, by the way, are used to that. And when people go on vacation, sometimes they struggle with the idea that they might sit and just do nothing. But it can be a very important part of our learning. And also make sure that you're getting enough sleep. We talk about this a lot. It is our baseline. But what we know happens during sleep is the brain recharges. And part of that process also triggers that part of us that is creative. When you strengthen those neurons, it's powerful how our brain can then start to produce ideas, innovation. We can see our brain go into a 31% more productive state by making sure we're getting enough sleep. That means innovation, creativity, problem solving, decision making, critical thinking, all those things go up. And then make sure, this is a good one. Like, we often resolve things without having to actually think through them if we give ourselves enough sleep time. And many of you have this experience, even doing nothing related to what you want to solve can actually work on that. Like, for example, you can take a walk. Like I was saying, that walk, I imagine there was lots of thoughts and creativity that showed up in her head while she was walking. If you aren't listening to anything, maybe it's some music, but if you aren't being distracted by anything, you're just giving yourself time, you can see that the thing you're worried about can start to get answered. The brain can focus on it when it's not focusing on it, in essence. So when you're tired, when you have a problem to solve, don't just stay up and do that. Just go to sleep. Your brain will solve it through that sleep. And as we talked about, movement boosts creativity, just moving. If you move 3 times a week for 20 minutes each, your brain's going to recharge in a way that'll make you much more creative. And then outside time. So, this is my joy. I went up last week to Lake Tahoe. My wife and I rented a cabin and just walked in the snow. We got snowshoes, just walked out there. Just smelled that smell of really fresh pine. That kind of thing makes a difference. Now, you're living in the middle of New York City. What do? Just go outside, take a walk, find a park, there's green all over the city if you just go find it, or go by the water. I live in Battery Park, walk up and down the walkway. I mean, any of those things can produce that energy that comes from being outside and getting vitamin D on your skin, sun, air, all of that makes a difference. The other thing we'll just leave you with here is around gratitude. Gratitude is one of the things that in the course of 7 days, it can completely change the neurology of your brain by just practicing gratitude once a day. It's simple, but in doing it, you'll see gray matter functions differently. It gets stronger, healthier. You'll notice the happy zone gets larger by just doing a daily gratitude practice. It also inspires the part of our brain where creativity comes from. So a couple of little tips, daily do something that focuses you on gratitude. Tiffany says, I wake up in the morning and write down 3 things I'm grateful for. You can do it in the morning, you can do it at night, you can do it before you have dinner. You decide when, but creating some gratitude time can be really powerful. And for young people, they can see the transformation in the brain happen in about 3 days. So if you got kids in the house and you're doing it with them, you're affecting the neurology of their brain while you're doing something that refocuses them not on comparing themselves to others, like social media puts their brain in that mindset, to appreciating what they have, focusing on the joy and the gratitude that they all have. And then there's a a way to kind of experience gratitude by sharing appreciation for others. And it's a really interesting dynamic in the brain, because that sharing of it can often feel better for you than it even does for the person who's receiving it. Obviously, they feel great by it as well, but it does something for both of you. So it's a great creative way to experience gratitude by just thinking of the people in your life that make a difference for you. Make sure it's authentic, right? You don't want to go around just pretending, but get authentic conversations with people where you say, you know, what you did the other day, I really appreciate it. It made a difference for me. I was able to X, Y, and Z. I just want to say thank you. That means the difference makes a big difference for them, but it also, as I said, makes a difference for you. And then around purpose, you know, you probably heard the story where John Kennedy was walking through NASA. He'd given the, you know, he'd given the challenge out to, let's see if we can be the first, you know, country to get to the moon. And he really was, you know, inspiring in all of that in such a way where NASA took that on, and they were promoting it through the organization, through every layer of the organization, that we're going to be the first to get a man on the moon. And when Kennedy was walking through NASA, he saw a guy who was sweeping, and he went over to him and he said, "I'm, you know, John Kennedy, what's your name?" And he told him, and he said, "What do you do?" And he said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." He had connected what he was doing with getting a man on the moon. It didn't matter to him what he was doing. He just knew that that was his purpose. And when you connect what you're doing to a bigger thing, it produces inspiration, it produces awe, it produces wonder, it produces all of the things that when you wake up in the morning, you hop out of bed with excitement versus, oh my God, I have to go do this thing. So make sure every day when you wake up, you have that, right? You take a moment for that. Do your gratitude, and then think about, what's my legacy? What's my footprint? And by the way, it's fine to be inspired by the idea that you're making a difference for your family. That's fine. That could be all there is. It could also be the thing you're doing. Doesn't matter, but connect to that, because when you do, you wake up knowing what it is you're doing and why it is you're doing what you're doing. So to leave you, I want you to think about one creativity or purpose microstep that you heard today from what Aya and Arianna said, or anything I've said. What's one? And remember, microsteps, small things you do consistently create major impact. And that's what we're teaching. And so you don't have to take on a big thing, take on something that's too small to fail, but start it if this is important to you, and you will see a difference. You'll see it make a significant difference for you. So let me pause here, bring Marina back in, and just open it up for questions here for the last few minutes before we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joey. I love how you speak about creativity and purpose in such a relatable way, of like, especially finding purpose in work, and the idea of thinking, who am I doing this for? Who is benefiting from what I am doing? It really helps you reframe, you know, especially if we're stressed and like we don't have time to like gather our thoughts. It's a beautiful thing to do. I love that. We're getting some questions, even more questions in here. This is a really great question just in general about thriving. What are some signs you're thriving versus not thriving? What if you're not sure?
Well, there's a few easy ways. One, are you happy? Right? If you're happy, you're thriving. And any area in your life that you feel like you're not satisfied with, that's an area to look at and address. But if you're happy and you're great with what's going on, then you're good. Now you could say, I'm happy eating donuts and chocolate cake every day. Like, yeah, there is, but there's also another side of that where you know that you don't feel good about that element as well. So you can't fool yourself on that one. It's like, what am I really, truly happy and satisfied with? Great, I'm good there. Where am I not? And it could be a small level of dissatisfaction. That's okay. Pick a microstep in that area. Just do something small until that area feels the way you want it to feel.
Someone in the comments is vibing off that and being like, can we really be happy all the time? Is content thriving as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, content is thriving. And when you say happy, like to me, if I'm content, I'm happy. So I may have a broader definition of happiness. I don't have to walk around bouncing, joyfully through things, but if you're happy with what you're doing, you're content, you're satisfied, you are grateful. I mean, all those things produce that same result, right? So it's not Pollyannic. It's just, where am I good? Where am I not good? And not good's where you want to address all these microsteps.
Yeah. This is a great one from Elaine. Is it possible to be creative when going through difficult times at home that seem overwhelming?
It is. And part of the reason why it's actually even more important in those times is because that's when we start to lose a sense of what we can do about something. Like, when we get to a place where we go, I don't know what to do about this, that's where creativity comes in. And that's why I always start with mindset. So mindset is, what can I do about this? Where are my options? Where's opportunity? Where's possibility? What can I do that's different? If I'm not satisfied with something, what is it that I want? And how can I start to get myself there? So intention, purpose, being creative, where do I want to go? Focusing on that inspires the brain to start thinking outside the box. Getting in a routine, feeling like this is just my life, you're losing creativity there. So what else do you want? What do you want to be different? How can you start to create that? Like, ask the questions that inspire the brain to start looking for answers, and then creativity kicks back in.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So this is a great question. Joey, what is your personal favorite microstep?
I have a lot.
Like your babies.
Say again?
Like your babies. How do you choose your kids?
Yeah, it really is like situational.
Yeah.
Because there's so many of them, and it often depends on when. The one that Arianna mentioned, box breathing, I'm doing a lot with teams right now because the stress levels have gone up significantly since the pandemic began. So I'm teaching that a lot, and I'm doing it a lot because I'm teaching it live, and I love it. It's like I'm getting 37 box breathing experiences in my day, and that's just it's keeping me in this nice, cool, calm, relaxed place. But I have so many. I meditate, I move every day, I stretch between all of my calls. I have lots of them that I do, but I started with one, and then you just add. So don't take on 30 at once. When you get one down, add a new one to it.
Yeah. And I've actually been doing box breathing too, especially if I wake up in the middle of the night. I do box breathing to go back to sleep, but sometimes I wake up with an idea, even if I don't know about it, or a dream. And the one microstep I've been doing also is like, write it down right away. Right. Just keep a pad and paper, whether it's a worry or a creative idea, there's a microstep to write it down, right? And get it out. Why does that work?
Well, because then your brain will stop focusing on it. So I tell people two things. One, write down all the things. If you have a brain that wakes you up every night, write down all the things you have to do before you go to bed. Circle one of those that you're going to do tomorrow. And then if you get awakened in the middle of the night, then write down whatever it is that wakes you up. That will stop the brain from spinning. We call that rumination. But it'll take you about 2 weeks, and then the brain will stop waking you up. You need to do, by the way, the thing you circle that you're going to do, just one of those things every day, and the brain will stop having to wake you up. It knows that you're downloading it, you're doing it, it'll start relaxing. I
love that. So download whatever it is, your worries or your creative ideas. If you wake up with them, get them on paper as soon as you can. We're past time, so I want to be mindful. Thank you so much, Joey. This was so incredibly amazing. It's always amazing to hear you speak. This was so helpful. Thank you, Bookshop Santa Cruz.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, wow, what an incredible evening. It's been really transformational, and such an honor to be here with Joey, Marina, Aya, and Arianna. I know I'll be implementing more microsteps into my life. I know I've done it. I've been doing it over the last few years, and it's like, it's so nice to have an encapsulation of the science behind it, because it really does work. And, it affects my well-being, and it affects the people I interact with. So really, you're kind of like changing the world by doing this, I think. So I just want to thank everyone for attending tonight. For those that purchased a bundled book ticket package, it comes with a signed book plate, and those will be shipped out to you. And they're also in the store for you to pick up, depending on what ticket option you chose. And I just want to thank everyone at Thrive, everyone at the Chamber of Commerce, Santa Cruz County, and to Joey and Marina. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.